Hello everybody, I'm your host, the one and only Hamis28, and let's get right into the grand finale of Dusty Hell. Now, as I left off last episode, we're going to be going into our space station and building the rocket ship that will get us out of this solar system and back home. Now, I'm sure many of you were wondering, what were in these chests in the final episode? Why was this piece of stone right here? Well, right now we're going to answer that question, and they're empty. They're fully empty because I moved everything into these strong boxes. These two resonant strong boxes are going to hold everything we're going to be using to building the ship out of here. And for a little bit of a spoiler, that's what our ship is going to look like. I don't have a name for it, I just kind of built it. I just thought it looked cool after a lot of building in creative mode. And I thought, after I got it to where I wanted, I thought, well, that's a good way to do it. And now we're actually going to build this thing. Luckily, the creative gadget, the copy paste gadget, makes this really easy to do. You do paste, yep, there it is. Looks really nice. I'm not going to click that there. It looks like it actually does work though. No, it's showing a bunch of red, so I don't think you can read into the strong boxes. But luckily, we're going to be building this in space where we have more than enough room to get everything going. And now we made it back. And I made those grapple hooks from last episode, so that should help us. You need string to do this? Okay, well luckily we can't float away too far. I should have tested this. I'll need some... See, it's funny, because I was testing this in the creative world. I didn't realize you need string to actually throw this, which is really funny. So, we're going to place down our strong boxes right here. And as you can see, this chest is entirely full of laboratory blocks, which we're going to be using. Let's see, we need a bit of room. Can store some stuff in here. That works. We only need one grapple hook. Now I can store these in my bauble slots. Yep, that works. So let's go ahead and start building our spaceship. So I can replace this stuff here, put you in there. Luckily nothing... Oh, actually, I wonder if mobs can spawn out here. I'm pretty sure they can. But if we take this guy and grab... Nothing else, I think. I think if I just right-click, it'll start building. I will need a little bit of stone right here, but as long as I keep right-clicking into this corner, it should keep adding everything to the main design. There we go. Okay, there's the back of it. Done. Grab some more laboratory blocks. Right-click again. Oh man, it's so sick watching the whole thing build at once. I literally spent hours in creative mode designing this. Oh, let me grab the glowstone, because that should light up all the dark areas. Okay, there we go. Now we need to grab all the stone and some of these Tyrian blocks. There we go. Grab the rest of this. And that should be the last of it to build the spaceship. And there we go. I don't have a name for it. Looks pretty sick though. I'm surprised it didn't use these though. I thought I counted it correctly. Huh. I mean, it looks pretty much done. I don't see any missing slots. So I think I just miscounted some of the items. Or maybe I just got a little bit extra? Huh, not actually sure. Especially the glowstone. Maybe I just put too much glowstone in there. Anyways, let me grab the rest of this. So everything from there should be done. And everything in this chest should be what we need to actually build the interior parts, minus a couple items. Like I don't have all the reactant dynamos yet, so we're going to have to add those last, but I can start adding everything else. Of course though, I'm going to need string for the grapple hook. So I'm going to head back down to Earth, grab some string, and then we'll be right back up here. Alright, so we got our string, we got our grapple hooks. We should be ready to head inside. Now the first thing we're going to build is the extreme reactor. Now for the design I came up with to generate a 250,000 RF per tick, took this much material. As you can see here, everything in this top row. So we're looking at 4 stacks of extreme reactor glass, 4 stacks of enderium blocks, a stack and 22 control rods, little extra casings, the controller, the flux power tap, and 2 reactor access ports. And I'll explain more once we actually get inside this guy. Now, let's see, I'm still holding this. Can I reach that far? You can, cool. Let's just go up a little bit. So, if I remember correctly, the entrance should be on this side. And it looks like we kind of bounce off a little bit, which is a little bit annoying. I could probably break in some more entrances, but kind of be a waste. Now the hole should be right over here. There we go. I wonder if there's like an artificial gravity mechanic. You do start to sink after a while. So here's the bridge of the ship. This is where I plan on putting in all of these simulation controllers. And this room over here is where you submit those simulation items that you get. And that's where we're going to generate most of our loot. Now if we come down here, I don't have a... what's the word? I originally didn't have any plans for this space. This space was mostly just a void between the compartments I built. Now if we go down a little bit more, we should arrive to the spot for the reactor. Now the reactor is going to fit into this entire room right here. So the way I built it, if you take a look at the journey map, as you can see, the journey map makes it very easy to see. This room at the head is where the AE system is going to go. Then this one in front of it is where the FTL drive or the endergenic generators are going to sit. The room we're currently in is going to be the general power storage room. Then behind that, this is where the extreme reactor is going to go in the back. Now these 2 pods on the side here are where our reactant dynamos are going to live. This little pod here is going to be the spot where our cryopod is going to go. And then this spot was the... wait, was this the cryopod spot or was this the cryopod spot? One of these was the cryopod spot, and the other one was... the other one was the end void shields. Because I really wanted to have a bit of fun making the space station, you know, I wanted it to be an actual space station, not an actual space station. I wanted it to be an actual spaceship that realistically would fit all of the components inside. And this was the design I came up with. The way I built this was I just built each individual component out of rectangles, fit them in to see what sizes they would be, and then I built the frame out of those shapes and then just surrounded it with the backside, well not the backside, the outside to make how the outside looks. So everything should fit inside. So starting with the reactor, we're going to need our extreme reactor casings and our glass. Funny enough, the only reason there's so much glass is because when I built it originally, these sides were glass, which you're not even going to see anything, so it's kind of a waste. But that was just how I designed it, so that's why I brought so much glass. Now this design, I believe, was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 by 21 by 5. I kind of forget where the border of this room is. I think it was this spot right here. So if I just count 21, that should get me the right dimensions. 21, perfect. So that's the base frame. And it's going to be a little bit annoying building these in here. It's a shame you can't use the building gadget to do this, because that would make building like the extreme reactors way easier. Sadly, these all register as tile entities and the building gadget does not like them. Alright, so that's the entire frame completed. Did I count the bottom when I mapped this out now that I think about it? Don't think I did. In which case we don't have enough reactor casing, so I'm going to have to finish that later. But we can do the main parts right now, because the top is mostly glass and these control rods in a checkerboard pattern like this. And I didn't bring my pickaxe. Nice. Alright, so all the control rods are placed, all the glass is on the sides. Now we just need to fill this guy, and that's the most annoying part. So the way it works is I need to fill all of the blocks with glass with these blocks of Enderium. Why? Because it acts as a coolant which lets the reactor run even hotter and generate even more power. And with 4 stacks, placing 3 at a time, it's really slow. You know what takes this process even longer? When you forget to bring the reactor fuel rods to actually power the machine itself. Anyways, so it was funny. As I was talking and placing these, I was like, wait a minute, where did I leave the reactor fuel rods? Back at home. That's where I left them. Luckily, these guys make light, which is very nice. Now we just have to fill up all of the empty space with the control rods, touching the reactor control rods, to fill up the entire interior. And now it's fully filled. Now it does seem like I did my math wrong, because the way I mathed it was I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I bet I know what I did. The side here is 21, but the inside is only 19. I bet I multiplied by 21 times 7, and that's why I have the extras. These ones are kind of a waste. I can't do anything with them, but we can use the blocks of Enderium for other things later. Now, to finish the reactor, you just have to place your controller right here, then where you want the power to come out, so we'll put it there, and our inputs are going to go here and here. You swap this one to eject waste by clicking outlet mode, and that's how you put the stuff in. Now if we fill this with glass, it should finish the reactor. That's not good. Air is not valid. Okay, that means there's an air block somewhere. Okay, let me fix that real quick. Well, that was extremely annoying. There was actually 2 spots on the top where I was missing the glass, which is why it didn't work. But now it works. So you can see status offline, 0, 0, 0 for everything, 100% fuel reactivity. Now to run this, I found that we're going to be throwing in plutonium. Usually you have to do it kind of like in the compact claustrophobia, where you have to turn the lower tier energy source into the higher tier one. In this pack, you could just craft it. So plutonium ingots are made from 8 cyanide ingots, and cyanide ingots are made from a single yellorium ingot with sand. Now they also break down into cyanide, so you can recraft them, which is pretty nice. It makes it a little bit renewable that way. And altogether, that is our reactor. That's where pretty much all the power is going to come in over here. Now if we go, what should we build next? We're going to add the power source here next. So let me head outside and grab that. Alright, so I grabbed the rest of our materials here. Now, this room is where I believe I was going to put all of our simulation chambers, which is why I have this little divot here in the ground. So I believe what I planned to do was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, that is what I was doing. Because 12 divided by 48 is not a number. It's supposed to be 18, I think. Actually, I forget how I set this up. Okay, I remember now. So we have 48 simulation chambers. You need 16 of them, each doing different things. So I set it up so I was going to have 8 on each side, so that this area here would be like the earth matter, then the end matter, and then the nether. So we're going to go ahead and place the power, and I believe I've just put the power on the bottom. So you just do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like so, and just slap these guys on top. Luckily these guys make light, which is very nice, and we're just going to have these go all the way down. I think the only place I changed it was I just need to move the power to behind this. That way you can still access this thing right here. And there we go, our row of simulation chambers. Then the way I had this designed in mind was I was going to have item ducts in the back and the top. The back was going to feed in the polymer while the top pulls out the products. And that was going to feed back into our AE system. So now that part is done. All my food is on the little space station. I'm going to have to grab that later. And then this room was just going to be where the, what are they called? loot fabricators were going to sit. And then I would have more ports in here. That way it could automatically just pull stuff out and craft it into the reticent items. So let's head back down here. So you could see with our Futura block, this is where I designed the ME controller to sit. This Futura block doesn't actually do anything. It's from Chisel, it's not a real controller. And I left my pickaxe over there, that's annoying. I can break glowstone by hand, so that's what I'll do. And bam, there's our controller. So the controller is going to sit in this room, and then theoretically we would have all of the smart cables bouncing off this thing, and then power was going to come at the top. It seems like I did forget to bring an energy acceptor though, so I'm going to have to do that. But I did plan on having the energy acceptor essentially popping out of here and then going down, so we'd have a cable. Yeah, there's the power. So the resonant flux ducts would basically loop over this entire area, which we can set up right here. So you just throw that guy in right here, grab your, not pearl injectors, grab your power cells, and then I plan to put it just right here. It's a 9 by 9, so we'll put it right here. Just like that. You can make it taller, but as you can see, these 9 blocks can store 180 million RF per tick, and I should be able to use the hammer here to connect this. Perfect. Just like that. So we'll just come up and over, and we're going to add inputs onto these sides as well. That way it can pull more power from the reactor. Remember, this reactor is going to output 250,000 RF per tick. So this is where most of our power is going to come. And if you noticed, we have this bit of redstone on the ground. This is actually funny. I don't know why, but tile entities can't be copied by the copy paste gadget, but redstone functions just fine. So I do have to check my creative world and how I set this up, because I think I brought enough materials to make it run. It's just a little finicky. So I'll be right back. Okay, I just pulled up the design on my other monitor, so now if we break these, it was just a placeholder, so I kind of knew where to put it. Probably should have just kept them actually. So it should be 1, 2, 3. How wide is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it just barely kind of fits in here in this room, which is fine. And I think it is a full square, so if we just do, let me grab this and do another, don't have to be 8 on that side, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like so. So you build a big bowl out of redstone. Now I'm going to grab my sequencer, and you go here, and the other sequencer is going to come 2 down right here. Energetic generator 1, 2, 3, and 4. Redstone connects to these. So it should look like this. Our first pearl injector goes right here. This ender monitor goes here. It goes in a loop like that. Followed by our sequencers, like so. And then I think that's everything. We're just missing a timer and one more ender monitor. Man, this is so annoying. There must be like artificial gravity that you can build. And timer. And it's in the wrong spot. Okay, turn it around like so. I need to grab my food too. I'm getting hungry up here. And then, oh, that's not good. I do tend to fly into the ceiling, which is a little bit annoying, but that's the basic design. You just feed in your ender pearls and it works. Now I do have to change the settings on this. So now that you know what it looks like, let me go about the settings. So all 4 of these inner sequencers have to be set to fire on 3 and 5 with once 2. 3 and 5, once 2. 3 and 5, once 2. 3 and 5, once 2. Now set the timer to fire every 30 ticks. Then you're going to link these generators to each other like so in a clockwise direction. You're going to set all 4 ender monitors to pearl fired. Then lastly, you're going to take these two sequencers and you're going to set them to fire on ticks 1 and 3, also once 2. 1 and 3, once 2. And that's it. That's the whole setup. And with 4 of these, that should be enough to get us to 50,000 RF per tick. So I'm just going to build another stack, and I'll be back in a second. And you know what? It's so much easier to design things in theory, and then when you actually have to build it, you realize, oh wait, how was I actually going to pull the power out of these? It's a good thing there was room in each layer to fit in the flux ducts. Otherwise, it kind of would have just been a big waste of time, and I was going to have to redo the design. Luckily, I was able to get everything to fit. So you can see we have 4 layers, and with 4 of these, it should generate enough RF per tick to finish the challenge. We have resonant flux ducts that will then be connected to the main power cell, and we have a line of item ducts that go into the central column to feed the pearl injectors with pearls. And the way we're going to supply the pearls is using this chest and this item duct. We're just going to have the ME system push pearls into this chest to keep it fed at all times. Alright, so I had a bit of a meeting, so I had to take a short break. But since it was an unproductive meeting, I also had time to run a bit more cabling around for a couple of items. Made the power cell a little bit taller just so I could manage the cables a bit better. But now we're going to work on the reactant dynamo rooms. So you can see from our inventory here, I think this is everything, plus some of these. Should be enough. Actually, we're missing some conduits from Ender.io, but this is the base for what you'll need. Because if you take a look, the goal here is you need to produce 50,000 RF per tick using resonant reactant dynamos using the element catalyzer augment using the pyrotheum cryotheum recipe. So I figured the best way to do this actually takes about half as much of these that we have here. I just grabbed both because you pretty much duplicate the same setup on each side. It's just the fuel is different. On this side, we're going to use cryotheum and pyrotheum. The other side, we'll use the petrotheum and aerotheum. And this is how you do it. So, I should have brought some blocks, actually. That would have been useful. Can I steal a block from over here, maybe? Okay, that goes outside, so never mind. We can steal from this corner, though. Because you're going to be building not a checkerboard pattern, it's just a raised pattern, really. And it should all fit in here. So, it needs to be raised because the bottom floor is where we're going to have the Ender.io conduits going, because we need to feed in these reactant dynamos. And let me upgrade this, and then put 1, and then 3 of you, so we can demonstrate. This reactant dynamo has to take in gelid cryoethium and pyroethium dust, or vice versa, as you can see here, blazing pyroethium or cryoethium dust, to produce 400,000 RF. Now, at the final tier with these augments, it generates 960 RF per tick. Now, if you do 50,000 divided by 960, it'll take like 60 of these reactant dynamos in order to reach 50,000. That costs too much power and resources to be effective. So instead, what we're going to do is use thermal mediators to increase the effectiveness. So the thermal mediator, when you put in vapor of levity, increases the tick rate by 100%. So if you take 4 of these and put them next to a single reactant dynamo, you increase the power by 400%. Taking it from 960 all the way up to 4,800, which means you only need 11. And I'm stuck in the ceiling. That's nice. So you only have to do 11 of these for it to work. And then you just have to do this checkerboard pattern. You just have to make sure each reactant dynamo is surrounded by 3 thermal mediators. So you just do it like this, like that, do it like this, like that, like this, like so, and then it is a little bit annoying trying to fit it in a crammed space, but this is supposed to be a spaceship, so we just gotta make it do. And then only need to fit in 3 more here. 1, 2, and 3. So now we just put in the last thermal mediators all along this side. 1, 2. Are you missing one? 1, 2. I could move this guy to make it a little less awkward. Man, I hate working in space. It's so annoying trying to move around, especially jumping. Okay, so let me grab this one, and we'll just fit them over here. I wonder why they didn't stack. That's weird. Probably because I did some MBT. So we should need 11 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Bam. So that fits. I hate this. I hate it. Can I just take this off so when I jump I don't go into the ceiling? Okay, that does work a little bit better. So now we just have to upgrade all of these to resonant tier, slot in your augments, and then you're good to go. Now the difficult point here is actually filling them with all the items, but that's where AE comes in handy, because we're gonna have AE basically hold everything over there, but then export the pyrotheum and cryotheum into the Ender IO conduits and have them pump it in. Easy enough. It was very difficult because with this setup, you don't have a lot of room to pump in our items. If you take a look, let's go up a little bit. Grab our wrench so we can turn this guy around. So you could see power has to come out the top here. Power comes out the top, which means if it's surrounded by 4, there's only one side left for a liquid and a solid. And the only way I could solve that was with Ender IO conduits, because they can do both in a single block. So I'm going to upgrade all of this and then set up the conduits. I'm going to have to go down to planet Earth to grab the rest of the conduits, but then we'll be ready to go. Alright, so now I believe everything should be hooked up correctly. It's going to be hard to tell until I turn everything on. But the left side and the right side are now both fully hooked up with all the thermal mediators and reactant dynamos. They're all connected by Ender IO conduits, fluid and item conduits, that are also connected to the AE system. So the way it works is the AE system is connected from over there through the roof. It feeds into these export buses. This is going to store petrotheum. This is going to store our dew of levity, and this is going to store the liquid aerotheum. They're going to get pulled out of these conduits into these items and start producing our power, and it's going to work the same over here. Now what's really annoying about this spaghetti is now that it's set up, there's no way of knowing if I hooked everything up correctly until I turn it on. I did math it out, and theoretically it should provide enough power. It's just hard to say if it's going to actually work. The only way I'll be able to tell is if I come over here and add up all the power together, and if the insertion tick rate is what I expected it to be, then I'll know it's correct. I could also just add some power cells like here and here. That way I can measure exactly how much power comes out of these rooms. And now that I say that, I might actually do that. But now from our quest book, we finished off the reactor, we finished off the 2 reactant dynamos, we finished the FTL drive. Now we just need the cryogenic chamber and the Ender IO generators to generate the Jeller field, and then we should be about done. Now you are supposed to, what's the word? I added some drives so we actually have power. I mean storage once I turn this guy on. You're supposed to be able to actually produce all your items on the ship. And I have an idea for how we're going to do that. We're just going to have to get to it a little bit later after I finish producing our... I forget what item has to be made in here to run the Ender generators, but we're going to produce that as well. But we should be able to produce everything we need to power this on the ship. This takes Ender pearls, which we can make. This takes plutonium, which we can store a stockpile of. We don't have to make it per se. Then all our dusts we can make, and I believe the dew of levity we can produce on the ship as well. And there's the cryogenic chamber, probably the easiest one out of all the requirements. It's like a super simple craft. And really all it lets you do is just sleep during the day to get a little bit of extra healing, not really that awesome. Now I did throw down our ender generators with our enhanced vat to actually fill these guys, and I gotta say, this is probably gonna be the part I don't do, and the reason why is because this is actually really annoying to set up. Because if you take a look, ender generator, ender gen, each one consumes Dew of the Void to generate power. If I click U, it actually should show it. There you go. It takes 192... It runs for 192 ticks per millibucket of Dew of the Void, so it does last a long time, but you need at least 1400 millibuckets just to run it, just to turn it on. And Dew of the Void is made from nutrient distillation, grains of pieziality, and grains of the end. Nutrient distillation, super easy, you know, we already make it, but grains of pieziality requires a sag mill with pulsating crystals, and pulsating crystals take all of this to craft. And then, for the other side of it, the grains of the end take an ender crystal, which require a soul vial of an enderman and a vibrant crystal, which takes this again. So it's really expensive, and I'm just going to let myself be beat by that because I can't be bothered trying to figure out how to do it, but theoretically, this is how your setup would look. Have your grains go in here, go into your ender generators, and you're good to go. Everything else, though, does work pretty well. I filled up our reactor with plutonium. That's where we're getting all of our power right now. As you take a look, currently inserting 9200 because it's completely full. Now if we go upstairs, it's really annoying trying to go up. This is our spaghetti room, as you can see. And if I use our grapple hook, go right over there. So you can see some of the simulation chambers are now functioning and working, taking our polymer clay and making stuff. And it should all get pumped into the ship's AE system. Now there's nothing in these fluid terminal. Now there's nothing in the fluid terminal yet, mostly because any cryothium and aerothium is automatically turned into the liquid form and then sent into the reactant dynamos, so they're not actually doing anything. And this red terminal is actually connected to the old base via the quantum ring, so we can access everything from the old base. Now I did try to set up the oxygen distributor from Galacticraft so I could have like a sealed environment, which is why this is here, because you can see I set up this lever. So this would open and then you can exit from the other side. But I guess it's just too big of a space, so I can't actually fill it with oxygen. But apart from everything, that is most of these done. Reactant dynamos for the ship engines, reactant dynamos for the ship gyroscopes, the unified logistics from AE, the cryosleep module, the ship AI, the FTL drive, and the ship power supply. Really all that left is the end void shields, but it would just be too annoying. Like I don't want to figure out how to even do this at this point because it's just unnecessary. It doesn't really do anything to like actually finish the pack, which is really sad, but it would just be so annoying. It was annoying enough making the ender generators. At least these were cheap. It's just Dew of the Void and Levity is so annoying because I need Vapor of Levity along with Dew of the Void to actually function, to actually finish off the reactant dynamos so they function. But it's so annoying and I can't figure out like a simple way to actually get this done. Because you could see for the Vapor of Levity, you need grains of prescience. And where do you get this from? From a prescient crystal, which comes from shulkers. And I was like, shulkers? Where am I supposed to get shulkers from? If you take a look, shulker, you can actually get a spawn shulker item with a block of Manulian and 4,000 essence. So it is possible, but then that means I have to set up a whole system where I have to generate shulkers just to capture them in vials, just to use them to make crystals. And it's too far beyond me. I couldn't figure it out. I was messing around in creative for such a long time trying to figure it out, and I just couldn't do it. So this is where I would say the pack has beaten me. I am at the point where I had a lot of fun with this pack, We almost made it to, because, we made it to the point where we're pretty much able to do because we made it to the point in the pack where pretty much anything could be built, like, resources are not a thing we need to worry about anymore. We have unlimited food, unlimited water. Apart from this, I would call this, like the final game content. We've essentially done everything. Now, if I had a more inquisitive mind that was really interested in solving these puzzles to actually get it to the final state, I think I would really enjoy trying to figure it out. But I have dedicated a lot of time to this pack already, and I think it's time I've moved on. Maze Mouse, you've done an incredible job with the mod pack. I really enjoyed it. The early game was my favorite part. That was where the creativity really shined in this pack, especially having to spend so long without auto-crafting. That's where I felt this pack shine the most. Now, I never played the original Crash Landing, so I can never really know just how good it was, how good this experience was compared to that one. But just by having this pack stand on its own, I thought it did very well. Now, just a couple ending notes in case you're playing this pack yourself. The way I made my dust was not the most efficient. If you take a look at something like cryoethium, there's actually a much better way to generate large amounts of this. There's actually a much better way to generate large amounts using your Blizz powder. You can actually take these and combine all three of them with your blank data module into a thermal elemental data module, because this guy lets you produce blitz rods, basal rods, and blizz rods from the pristine matter. So if you just take a bit of time to delve into deep mob evolution, this is actually a much better way to generate your elemental dusts. It's so much more efficient. Now, of course, the way I did it wasn't wrong. It worked just as well. It was just a pain to set up, and deep mob evolution would have made it so much simpler. As always, I'm always defeated by my own lack of looking in JEI for better solutions. But hey, I'm getting better at it. If I keep playing these tech mod packs, I'm going to reach the points. If I keep playing these tech mod packs, I'm going to reach the point where I am going to be an expert at tech mod packs, and they're no longer going to beat me as much as they did before. If you take a look at my original Ocean Block series compared to this series and just looked at the difference between my infrastructure, you could tell I've really advanced on actually building a factory and getting things to run effectively, which at least for me is where I find a lot of the enjoyment of these packs, is just building a big factory. Let the pipe spaghetti go. That's the best part. But I've been rambling for long enough. As always, I'm your host, Hamas28, and I'll see you guys next time.